The First Stone, Chapter 24. Hey, Carly said when the elevator's door opened and Reef stepped out. Look who's here. Reef didn't know what to say. Despite the nurse's continued warmth, he still hadn't gotten used to being welcomed when he walked into her room. It felt good. Weird, but good. Funny? She asked. What? A joke you just heard. I haven't seen you smile like that. No joke, he said to his feet. What was it about this place? 6 seconds inside, and his face was as red as his salsa. As hot, too. We've missed you this past week, she said. Been having a good time? Yeah, if you could call spending your days in another hospital a good time. But things were definitely looking up. Jink had regained consciousness shortly after Reef and Bigger's bus ride to nowhere, and the result of his preliminary tests were promising. The doctor's word, not his. Since then, however, Jink had astonished both the doctor and his friends, proving faster than anyone would have thought possible. Much of this the doctor attributed to his patient's considerable physical strength. But Bigger had another explanation. He's having a ball hassling all those nurses, which Reef had to admit was painfully obvious. He'd laughed more than once at the lengths Jink had gone to get a rise out of the hospital staff, like Bigger getting to bring him in one of those cans of apple juice he'd poured into his bedpan, confounding the nurses keeping track of his fluid input and output. Reef didn't need to hear the doctor's prognosis to know Jink was on the mend, but constant fuming the nurses stationed on Jink's floor was enough. And then, of course, there had been the call he'd received that morning. Bigger had phoned to tell them 2 cops had arrived at the hospital with news about Jink's assault. Rowdy Brewster and the 2 other men had been formally charged as a result of witness, who had come forward with an account of the attack. Bigger had been so wound up he was practically hollering into the receiver, but he settled down long enough to tell Reef that the men were being held without bail, and the case against all 3 looked solid. Reef shrugged. Just some good things have been happening lately, he said. The nurse smiled. Glad to hear it. We've had a few good things happen around here too, she said. Like what? I'll just tell you. She got her catheter out. Reef turned and just had time to leap out of the way of Brett's oncoming wheelchair. Darn, she muttered. Teenagers are worth 10 points from now on. No more advance warning. Reef grinned. That's good news about the catheter. I know how much she hated that thing. That's not the best part, though, said Brett. Maybe we would let Lisa tell him. Carly repeated, turning to Reef. She continued. She's been wondering when you've been coming back. I've been tied up, said Reef. A buddy of mine was in the hospital. We know, Brett said. Shelley told us. He's doing okay now. So's Lisa, said Brett, almost bubbling, in fact. Better than okay. She's improved so much that she's getting her fixators off tomorrow. Carly sighed. I thought we were going to let Lisa tell him. So sue me. That's great, said Reef, but I thought they weren't supposed to come off for a couple more weeks. They weren't, said Carly, but that was before you showed up. She's been a different person since then, eating better, putting 100% into her physio, really taking control of her recovery. Her change into attitude made a world of difference, and you made that happen, Reef. We're all very grateful to you. So is her mom, Brett said. I think she's in the room with Lisa now. If you'd like to meet her, I know she really wants to meet you. Reef looked at his feet. I'm not much for a meeting. She's really nice. You'll like her, I promise. Brett turned to her wheelchair and rolled down the hallway. Come on. Reef continued to stare at his feet, his face revealing the agony of sudden self-consciousness. Carly put her hand on his shoulder. You did a really good thing, Reef. You need to let people tell you how they feel about what you did. He looked up and smiled. Go on, she said.